Hello and welcome to the Radio Scilly video news. Sign up to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Radio Scilly. Our island's Methodist minister will be showing a very different skill when he deputises for the community bus driver Steve Sims. Steve has to go for the day to the mainland for an appointment, and Charlie Gibbs is a qualified driver and will be taking up the reins.
Detail, because obviously that's a bit of paper, Charlie, that gives you permission.
That's the full bus driving licence that you've seen.
No.
I've got 2 bits of paper in the office, one for the ordination, one for bus driving.
Steve says Charlie revealed he was legally able to drive the vehicle in a conversation last year.
Well, Charlie, I was talking to Charlie last year because I parked quite near him all the time, and he told me about it, and I've got to go away, and I didn't really not want to do the bus, and I rang up a couple of people here, they couldn't do it because of work commitments, and so I thought a long shot I'd try Charlie, and he seemed quite pleased and happy to have a go.
Charlie says he's been out for a quick refresher course around St Mary's, and he admits it was quite some time since he was last behind the wheel.
The last time I drove a bus was about 4 years ago when I was in Wisbech. I used to every morning drive a school bus, double-decker, down and Market. I did quite a bit there actually, coach driving and all sorts of things, because there was and then prior to that, when I was in Belfast, I drove a bus in Belfast.
As the Reverend prepares for revving the engine, he says he's always been quite interested in buses and is a bit of a fan.
Well, I'm more interested in old buses, really, to be honest with you, but sort of like the social history to do with bus companies and that sort of thing.
Charlie admits it isn't the best bus in the world.
It is a wreck. I feel ashamed, really.
Well, thank you for that.
Ashamed for getting into it, but never mind, I'll step in and help.
Will you feel the urge to bless the bus before you actually take it?
I don't do blessings. The parish church does blessings. The Methodist church does hymns.
If the Friday run takes off, Steve Sims says Charlie could deputise again in the future, but he doubts whether he'll be joining in on the Sunday runs, as there may be a conflict of interest. The clock is ticking until the 24th of July, when 3 islanders will set off on a 10,000-mile rally in a souped-up car from Goodwood to Mongolia. Nick Mackey, Will Ash and James Druce are undertaking the challenge to travel the distance with 199 other entrants in 28 days. They're doing it for Tresco's favoured charity, the Cystic Fibrosis Trust. James says they've been talking to former participants to gain tips on what to do and what not to do.
We've tried to get a good idea of what we're going to be facing. Spoke to about 20 or 30 teams, particularly some teams from Cornwall, who've given us a good idea of what to expect and what sort of challenges they've gone through.
Such a long trip requires preparation, and Nick says they're going to have to take some spares with them.
Spare springs, exhaust bits and pieces, alternators, a fuel pump. Yeah, we've got sort of most of the bits that you can't really replace for a European car when you're in Asia. I mean, some bits, if they break, we have to weld them to fix them, but we have got springs and a spare fuel pump and bits that we'd really be stuck with if we're trying to find them out there.
But it's against the spirit of the challenge to try and take everything you require with yourself, and teamwork and fixing problems with other entrants is all part of the challenge.
Not a great deal, because at the end of the day, the sort of philosophy of the rally is you'd get breakdowns and you get stuck, and you have to interact with the local community and people you meet on the way to help sort of get the car fixed and back on the road and get going again. But we put a sump guard on it so we don't get sort of any unnecessary bangs underneath the engine, and slightly bigger wheels, so hopefully we won't get quite so many punches. There's not too much you can do, but hopefully we've done enough.
A separate company's arranged all the visas and paperwork, which is important because some of the paperwork is hard to arrange, particularly going through areas like Kyrgyzstan. So far, islanders have brought in donations towards their fundraising initiative to the tune of £2,530. You can go to scillymission.com to find out how to support them if you want to make a donation. Now, the lads will be driving in shifts and they'll have to run through the night on the 28-day journny.
I think what we're gonna try and do in 2 hours driving, 2 hours in the back for a bit of a rest, and then 2 hours in the front, and just keep it see how that goes for a while, and then if not, we'll change it. But it should be quite spaced out, so it's not going to be like we're going to be driving, one person going to be driving for a whole day. So, but obviously there'll be times when it's if you're quite happy driving at a nice long road, then we'll carry on. But it should be 2 hours. 2 hours. How many is that over the day?
The road conditions, particularly in Asia, aren't the best, and Nick says buying fuel will be a challenge for the team once they leave Europe.
Obviously in Europe there aren't going to be too many problems, but when we're out in Asia, it's normally sort of hand-pumped fuel out of sort of behind chicken wire fences, sort of just got to sort of look out for it when you get to towns and villages, ask them where the fuel pump is and hopefully get pointed in the right direction. Although the quality of the fuel's debatable.
James is watching the political situation in some of the countries en route, and he says there are some areas of concern.
You've got the big the civil unrest going on between Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan at the moment, and it does affect a long part of the country that we'll be going through. So we'll just make sure the doors are locked and we drive quite fast through there.
You've read up on this, haven't you?
Yeah, every day.
But there are some parts of the run that James is particularly looking forwards to.
I think the Pamir Highway, it's the second highest road in the world. It's going through Tajikistan. You go up to about 16,500 feet, but it skirts the Afghanistan border for a few hundred miles, and apparently the scenery's just, you can't beat it.
One of the critical alterations has been the installation of a music system and iPod to keep their spirits up on the mammoth mission.
We've got an iPod. The iPod is full of Mackie's choice of music, unfortunately, so we don't know what it's going to be like. But
the best, no top 40 stuff.
What are you going to make him listen to then on the journey?
I don't know. Well, I've got a bit of everything, you know. As long as there's some talent involved, I don't mind listening to it. But you know, if they're after top 40 hits from Britney and Christina, they're not going to get them.
St Mary's new harbour master has taken up his position. Dale Clark is no stranger to Scilly, and he'll be marrying Islander Fran Morley soon. He spent around 14 years offshore, and he's decided to come back onshore because he has a young family, and he said he jumped at the chance to take up an opportunity for a position based on the islands.
This was too good an opportunity to turn down. I wasn't actively looking for employment with anybody, other company. But when I heard of this job, I thought in years to come I'd kick myself if I didn't apply and try for this position. So this was too good an opportunity to turn down.
At 31, Dale is amongst the youngest of harbour masters, and that's a comment he's heard quite a few times over the last few days.
A few comments, and I've had it on ships as well. You're very young to be a chief officer, you're very young to be a first officer. I didn't put myself in this position, I didn't put myself in the previous position, so I must have been doing something right, I think, along the way.
Dale says he wants to take stock of the way things are done at St Mary's Harbour before he suggests any changes, if indeed changes are necessary. A couple elected to represent St Mary's on our island's council have been talking about their targets for their time ahead. Chris Thomas resigned over the chief officer's pay controversy and has been re-elected to his position. He says he wanted to show his disapproval, and now he's back on the authority he wants to effect change. He says he'd like to improve islanders' views of the council.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting back to work and to restore the confidence in our authority, which has been badly dented due to the regrettable decision. And it's masked so many good things that the council has done before. So, you know, let us now move forward.
Do you think confidence has been dented amongst the electorate?
Well, I'm sure it has. I think, you know, everyone knows themselves that the council is not actually held in high esteem at the moment. And let's rectify that now, because it wasn't all bad about the council by any means. This is just one issue that was handled badly, in my opinion.
Chris's wife Sheila was also elected for the first time. Sheila says as soon as she's installed, she wants to tackle the island's noisy seagulls.
Well, obviously I've got to tread gently because I've got to find my feet, so to speak, and learn my way around the council. But one thing that I think I'm really going to push for is something about the seagulls. There are bylaws that we can get around the protected species, and something's got to be done about them rapidly.
Sheila says she wants the gulls dealt with as many people are disturbed by them, and the problem appears to be getting worse.
And not only complaints, I'm fed up of them waking me up at 4 o'clock in the morning. We can get a special licence which allows us to cull the herring gull, the greater black-backed gull, and the... What's the other one? Is it the common gull or something? There's 3 species, and they're the ones that are causing the problems over here.